friends, I'm Jennifer All, and today's Daily Hope is inspired by the Christmas carol, What Child Is This? Now, the tune of this song might be really familiar to you because it's an old English folk song, Greensleeves. So popular that Shakespeare himself referenced it in 2 of his plays. But the song we know and love today was written by a man named William C. Dix, who wrote it in 1865. Now, at that time, it was not common to write Christmas songs. I know. It's hard to believe because it seems like every recording artist today has a Christmas album. But back in William's day, it was unusual to focus on Christmas because the church didn't celebrate it the way we do now. And honestly, I think it's because William was coming from a different perspective. He had had an encounter with the Lord that absolutely transformed him. When he was 29, he became ill and it nearly took his life. And while he was recovering, he was bedridden, and it just drove him into this deep state of depression. But it was in that dark place that God met with him, and he had this spiritual awakening, this revival in his soul. And I honestly think that God used that dark season to give him a new perspective on everything. It was out of that season that he wrote over 200 hymns. He was so inspired, this song being one of them. And I see this fresh perspective in this song itself because it starts with a question. What child is this? It's a question that I think every parent who's ever brought a child home from the hospital has asked. They have looked at that little baby and said, what child is this? Who are you? Who are you going to become? Imagining all the possibilities and the potential of that little life. And on that very first night when Jesus was born, I know that the shepherds and Mary and Joseph, they were all gathering around going, what child is this? That the angels would sing and point us to this place at this time. And they were wondering about the identity of this little baby lying in a manger, wondering with a question mark. But in this song, William is asking us to view the baby lying in a manger, not from the beginning of Jesus' life with a question mark of who is he, but view this child for who we know he will become. View him from the vantage point of the end of the story, for we know who he is. This is not a question of his identity. What child is this? This is Christ the King. He is our King. There is a lesser known stanza here that goes like this. It says, nails, spear shall pierce him through. The cross he bore for me, for you. Hail, hail, the Word made flesh, the babe, the Son of Mary. William points us to Jesus on the cross, the King, the Messiah, crowned with a crown of thorns made by Roman soldiers as they threw a purple robe around him and they bowed down and they cried out, hail, hail, King of the Jews, as they mocked him right before they crucified him on the cross. Our King, in this moment, it is salvation that he brings. This is Christ our King, who will one day return with many crowns on his head, as John describes in the book of Revelation 19:11 through 16. When he has this vision, he says he sees a white horse whose rider is called Faithful and True, and with justice he judges and makes war. His eyes are like blazing fire, and on his head are many crowns. He has a name written on him that no one knows but he himself, and he is dressed in a robe dipped in blood, and his name is the Word of God. The armies of heaven were following after him, riding on white horses and dressed in fine linen, white and clean, and on his robe and on his thigh he has this name written, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. This is Jesus. This is Christ our King. We know who this child is. He is our King on the cross. He is our returning King. It is salvation that he brings. It is redemption and restoration that he brings. This is who he is. What do you see when you gaze upon that baby lying in a manger? My hope and prayer for you this Christmas season is that no matter what you're going through, whether you feel like it is a dark time or a light time and full of joy, may God give you a fresh perspective and new eyes through which to see him, to see this baby lying in a manger. That you will realize that this manger is overflowing with the fullness of his royal majesty. It is not a question of who he is. It is a moment to marvel and wonder in awe that God would choose to embody all this royal majesty in this fragile, vulnerable little baby. May you be so inspired with hope and confidence that you know what child this is. My friends, have a blessed and merry, merry Christmas. I hope I see you soon.
What child is this who lay to rest on Mary's lap is sleeping, whom angels greet with anthems sweet, while shepherds watch are keeping? This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him, Lord, the babe, the Son of Mary. Why lies he in such needless state, where ox and lamb are feeding? Good Christians fear, for sinners hear the silent word is preaching. Hell's spear shall pierce him through, the cross be borne for me, for you. Hail, hail, the Word made flesh, the babe, the Son of Mary. So bring him incense, gold and myrrh, come peasant king to own him. The King of kings salvation brings, that loving hearts enthrone him. Raise the song on high, the Virgin sings her lullaby. Joy, joy, for Christ is born, the babe, the Son of Mary. What child is this who lay to rest on Mary's lap is sleeping?